Hello everyone, it's Michael Lazar here, and welcome back to the channel. And in today's video, we're going to be answering the question about when to change Ison when it's not written. Now, somebody recently asked me, when do you change Ison when it's not written, and how do you hold out your Ison for long durations of time? So we're going to answer both of these questions in this video today. So the first question, how do you know when to change Ison when it's not written? Well, there's a couple methods I like to use. The first one, obviously, is to familiarize yourself with the tone. So, if you want to know how to change Ison on tone 3, listen to recordings of tone 3 or study scores written in tone 3. So we're going to do that right now. So here is the third mode, let every breath. Now we can notice a couple patterns here. One, it starts on ni. So let every. So when it resolves to ra, the Ison also resolves to ra. But when it's not resolved on to ra, it sticks on ni. Now this is just one pattern. Obviously, if you are studying many scores of music, you're gonna notice these patterns over time in each tone and pick up on them. I think that's a really good exercise to go to each tone and figure it out, because a lot of times you subconsciously hear them and you know the patterns just from listening to the music. But when you take the time to study the score, you can really get to understand what patterns are being followed here. Another thing is that Ison changes on the downbeat. Praise the here. So if you're going to change Ison, if you change it on the downbeat, it's a lot stronger. So those are two hints to study the scores and to change on the downbeat. Another thing might, and this kind of varies from parish to parish, is if the chanter indicates the Ison change with his hands. So if the chanter wants to do some sign language like pa, vu, ni, whatever he wants to do to kind of demonstrate there's a change in Ison, he might do that. I know some chanters like to use the finger method. Each finger is a note on the scale. Some chanters like to do, like I said, with the symbols like that. But whatever way it is, there could be ways of the main chanter indicating the Ison change. But, like I said, this is for when there's no indication of when to change Ison. So this might be a good idea to implement within your own parish, but I'm going to show you a piece of music that does not have Ison written in it, and how to determine when to change Ison. So if you look here, this is the Arabic hymn for Lord I Have Cried in first mode. Now obviously, there's no markings for Ison anywhere here, but that means it's good for us to kind of go in and write them in ourselves. So a couple rules of thumb. Usually you want to change Ison on the downbeat, meaning that it's a strong beat and a weak beat. Change it on the strong beat. Another rule of thumb I like to have is if you're confused where to look or where to go, look at the end of the phrase. Usually at the end of the phrase, you want to be with the chanter. Unless it's like tone 5, where they might be cadencing on K and you're cadencing on Pa. Usually, the end of the phrase will indicate where the phrase is going. And because of that, if you study the patterns enough, you can determine which note you should be on. So, let's do this for example. We know we have to get to Zo. But when do we change to Zo? Well, this is Ra, and we should stick on Pa. I think this would be a great place to change to Zo. It's a downbeat, and it's a very, very, very heavy interval. It's a tritone. But the thing with a tritone is it's very unstable once to resolve. Zo, ni, fa, vu, or ra, vu. It wants to do that resolution. But if we keep it on Zo, the melody is going to naturally just cadence down to Zo. So you get that really tense sound that resolves down to the Zo. Now here, it would be a good place to go back to Pa, just because you want to go back to the bass note and you're done cadencing down there. Now obviously, each tone has its own patterns and its own methods to changing Ison. And the way you get better at this is, like I said, studying the scores, looking back and seeing the patterns, but also listening to other chants in these hymns. If you familiarize yourself with the hymns of each chant, then it's really easy to follow these patterns. Now, one more dilemma could be that the chanter's improvising, and you kind of have to follow the Ison based off of it. Well, if he's improvising based off of a tone, then you just follow the tone, and you kind of anticipate where he's gonna go. If he's been cadencing on, like for example, 26 Hark, cadencing on Ni to Thee, and he lands on Thee, and you expect him to go up, you go to Thee with him, to basically allow him to cadence on the high pitches. But a lot of this is knowing who you're chanting with, and knowing the patterns. Because if they're an experienced chanter, they'll know the patterns, so when they're improvising, there's structure to it. So I hope that helps with the question, how to change Ison when it's not written. Now, the second question is how to prolong the duration of Ison when you're singing. This is simply stamina, but it's also allocation of resources. If I'm going to sing Ison, I'm not going to sing on full voice with vibrato, ooh, because that's inefficient, first of all. Second of all, it takes away from the main chanter. The Ison provides essentially the foreground for the chant, right? It's not supposed to overwhelm the chant. It's supposed to simply, and I would say, elevate the chant. So you should not be over singing Ison. Second of all, there are more efficient means of singing it. One, I like to do Ison on an oo sound, like ooh, and make it really circular or taller. Ooh, because you don't want the ooh to be a very nasally or stuck out sound. You want it to be a sound that kind of melts in with the melody. Now, the nice thing about ooh is it's pretty efficient with sound. So, if I breathe, ooh, I can get a stable and a steady stream of air without using a lot of it. Ooh. And if you're asking where to breathe, you can breathe with the chanter. If the chanter's at the end of a phrase, I would breathe with them. So if I want to sing, if I'm going to sing Ison, I would breathe at the end. Especially because Ison is not as, I guess you could say, demanding when it comes to the air. You can really like prolong how long you're singing Ison for. And if you want to breathe at the end of the phrase. It just makes sense. So, I hope you found this video helpful. If you did, I would greatly appreciate if you liked and subscribed. Again, I am not in my regular setup, but this is a video I felt like it would be good to make in the setup I am. So I really appreciate you watching. We're almost at 700 subscribers. Thank you so much, and have a great day.